Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, South Africa's Vice President Cyril Ramaphosa gets the majority of nominations to become leader of the ruling African National Congress, but the complexity of the race means that victory is still not assured. Also, Kenya is currently hosting the UN Environment Assembly, the world's highest-level decision-making body on the environment. This year, the overarching theme is that of the global threat posed by pollution, particularly the damage caused by discarded plastic. And for a touch of Burkina Fashion, we head to Burkina Faso, where traditional pagne fabrics have been enjoying a catwalk revival. Previously seen as down-market attire, they've been rebranded in haute couture creations. Well, South Africa's vice president's campaign to take over from Jacob Zuma as the head of the ruling ANC party is doing well. Cyril Ramaphosa has now got the most nominations for the post. He won around 55% of backing from party branches. Now, they're due to send delegates to choose a successor at the ANC conference later this month. Ramaphosa is ahead of his closest rival, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, by over 500 votes. There's a lot at stake, as the winner is expected to be the ANC's 2019 presidential candidate. Ashlyn Lang tells us why Ramaphosa can't count on victory just yet.
No, absolutely not. I mean, this is certainly a good sign for him, and his camp will be feeling pretty positive. He's won 1,862 branches, while Dlamini Zuma has 1,300. If you extrapolate that to the number of delegates that will go to the conference, he's got about 50% to her 40%. However, the size of these branches really matters. Some of these branches are huge and will send 2 or 3 voters to the conference, and that will potentially skew the results slightly from what we're seeing at the moment. Equally, one of the big factors that we've seen previously is that delegates will be told how their branches want them to vote, but there's nothing to stop them from changing their minds once they get to the conference. And obviously, given the ANC's background of intense corruption at the moment, that is a massive factor. Delegates have in the past been paid once they get to conference, or reminded of tenders that they or family members have won and how they could go away if they don't vote in the right way. So there's that. There's also the fact that the leagues, the Women's League, the Youth League, the Veterans League, and the executive committees of all of the provinces and the National Executive Committee will also vote. And so there's no knowing how they'll vote at this stage. It's all still to play for.
So how do Ramaphosa and Dlamini Zuma differ in their vision for the ANC?
Well, obviously, whatever happens, the ANC will be in charge after December still. And this is the ANC that has been run by Jacob Zuma, who is the former husband of Dlamini Zuma and a close ally, and by Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the current vice president. Therefore, the endemic corruption and the scandals you've seen swirling around the party, whoever wins is still implicated in that. However, the two candidates, leading candidates, I should say, there are others in the wings, have a very different outlook, and they've been campaigning along very different lines. Dlamini Zuma is the continuity candidate, carrying on the traditions of Jacob Zuma. She maintains that the ANC is not broken and that it is going in the right direction. Cyril Ramaphosa says that the ANC needs fundamental change. He has raised repeatedly concerns about what's become known as state capture, which is effectively the hijacking of ANC, of government resources by Jacob Zuma and his business cronies. He has said that he will target that and promised to be a sort of cleaner candidate. Dlamini Zuma has promoted what her husband has also spoken about, radical economic transformation, targeting white monopoly capital. Mr. Ramaphosa is very much more the pro-business candidate.
Ashlyn Lang there for us. Now, Switzerland says it's reached a deal to return to Nigeria some of the $321 million in assets seized from former military dictator General Sani Abacha. He took power in Nigeria in a coup in 1993 and died in 1998 whilst still in office. Abacha was accused of stealing as much as $5 billion during his time in power. Kenya is currently hosting the UN Environment Assembly, the world's highest-level decision-making body on the environment. And this year, the overarching theme is that of pollution. The problem is a global one, and ministers from over 100 nations are attending. Our Julia Stairs brings us more from Nairobi.
Over 4,000 members of regional governments, entrepreneurs, and environmental activists gathered here in Nairobi today for the UN Environment Fund's General Assembly. It's the third annual conference of this sort, and on the agenda this year is combating global pollution. Now, here in Africa, that means tackling issues like inequality, waste, and waste dumping, as well as electronic waste. Now, the UN says that in Africa, over 700,000 people die premature deaths due to issues of air quality and air pollution specifically. And they say that this is more people who die prematurely in the region than who are killed from issues like lack of access to clean water. And that's an issue that we hear a lot about in Africa. So this year they're trying to make it more about the human toll of global pollution here in Africa in an effort to get people to care more about this issue. Now, here in Kenya, they banned plastic bags several months ago. We heard from President Kenyatta himself at the conference. He said that already they've made great strides in enforcing this ban here in Kenya, and that he urged other countries to follow suit as well.
Well, the event kicked off on Monday, and ocean pollution tops this year's agenda. It's estimated that 8.8 million tons of plastic are dumped in the ocean every year and endangers a variety of marine species. Clément Bonero brings us more on efforts to battle the damage done to sea turtles in Kenya.
Piling up on this beach in southern Kenya, tens of thousands of bottle tops, food containers and shopping bags. Tons of plastic waste which ruin the local ecosystem.
The pollution is a major threat, both the sewage, the plastic pollution and the nutrients coming out of the agriculture. 80% of all the litter in the ocean is plastic. And the plastic is, of course, a tremendous problem. And since 1960, 20 times more plastic is produced.
At least 8.8 million tons of plastic are dumped into the ocean every year, the equivalent of one garbage truck every minute, according to the World Economic Forum. Plastic waste threatens a variety of species, including sea turtles, who confuse it for jellyfish or other prey. Animals that accidentally eat plastic are often found washed up on beaches, barely alive. Conservationists here are doing what they can to help turtles they find struggling.
So we focus on turtles because they are endangered, but also they're quite a charismatic species. People like turtles, but also because they're an excellent indicator species of ecosystem health.
Countries around the world have taken steps to reduce their amount of plastic waste. Kenya has banned single-use plastic bags, along with Rwanda and Tanzania.
And now time to turn the spotlight onto Burkina Fashion, where traditional fabrics have been enjoying a catwalk revival. Pagne had once been seen as exclusively casual wear, but designer Bazemse rebranded the colourful cloth and propelled it to haute couture status. Take a look.
These traditional printed fabrics, known as pagne, come with some very quirky names, like Your Husband's Jobless or Cover Your Modesty. Created in Bobo Dioulasso, Burkina Faso's second largest city, they're viewed as poor women's clothing because they're so cheap. But fashion designer Bazemse has launched a new line to give the low-cost garment a modern twist, rebranding it the Coco Dunda after the name of the neighbourhood it originated in.
I wanted to work with colours of my choice and to play around with other aspects of the Coco Dunda. People only had one set of colours in mind, which was the green and purple that everyone knew about. Since then, I've launched my first collection in my private fashion show, and it quickly took off. I didn't expect the Coco Dunda to be this successful.
Redefining Burkinabe fashion, the success of the Coco Dunda has rippled throughout the country. From the First Lady to Miss Burkina, the fabric is now a staple in many wardrobes and on catwalks.
It's a traditional fabric that used to be associated with being poor. But now, thanks to Bazemse, it's very fashionable and represents the beauty of African women as a whole.
And its success hasn't only been in women's fashion. Burkina Faso's president wears a cocodunda at official events, and so do his ministers. Some say that a renewed nationalism following the 2015 uprising has contributed to its popularity.
Burkinabés are becoming more and more passionate about their culture, and there's also a new feeling of patriotism which has seen a return of tradition. So its promotion has been welcome. It's coincided with a general upsurge in nationalism.
A unisex garment which can be tailored for people of all ages, the cocodunda appeals to a broad market, which Bazumse hopes will help its popularity spread across the border too.
That's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks very much for joining us. See you again. Take care.
The Observer's Direct, presented by Derek Thompson.
I'm here in Guinea with our observer Fatoumata Sherif, and she is sick of the trash that you see all around us.
Effectivement, à Conakry, les déchets sont un peu partout dans la rue, et pour les dénoncer, je fais des selfies déchets pour éveiller les consciences, mais également pour pousser à l'action.
The Observer's Direct, on France 24 and France24.com.